The military-style leadership of Boss Henry had already given the DuPont company fiscal stability. But that was jeopardized by civil war within the country and then within the family. On election night, 1860, the DuPont company's future was much in doubt as Henry and Lamott stayed up until 3 a.m. listening for presidential results via the company's Morse telegraph. The election of Abraham Lincoln placed DuPont in an unusual position. By all accounts, a war of secession was inevitable. DuPont was the primary supplier of powder to the federal government, but it was situated in Delaware, a border state more aligned with the South.
Henry DuPont was a Republican, but I do not believe that he supported Lincoln. However, once Lincoln was elected and war became inevitable, there was no question as to where their loyalties lay.
2 days after the attack on Fort Sumter, Henry showed this loyalty by instructing his sales agents to refuse any orders from southern states or individuals, no matter what price was offered. Henry's action helped create a gunpowder shortage for the Confederacy, but the Union faced a shortage of its own.
The U.S. government realizes very early in the beginning of the Civil War that there's only about a 6-month supply of saltpeter in the United States. And if Britain, say, came into the war on the side of the Confederacy, and of course the Confederacy was earnestly trying to get Britain to do precisely that, the United States could have found itself without a supply of saltpeter, hence without a supply of gunpowder.
President Lincoln sensed an impending gunpowder crisis, and the government turned to DuPont for help. In an act of extraordinary courage, Lamott DuPont covertly boarded a ship headed straight to London. Within 4 days of his arrival in England, the 30-year-old Lamott, acting undercover as a businessman, cornered the entire British supply of saltpeter.
Now his abilities as a businessman, a negotiator, were substantial. He got there in a very short period of time. He rounded up most of the saltpeter that was in England at that time, near about 3 million pounds.
As Lamott's hired hands hurriedly loaded the saltpeter for his return to America, the Prime Minister became suspicious as to why an American individual had cornered the saltpeter market. Sensing the true objective of the mission, he forbade Lamott from sailing. In a deft move that showed his shrewd business sense, Lamott spread the word that he would be forced to sell off the saltpeter at a price so low it would ruin the industry in England. Under pressure, the Prime Minister lifted the ban, and Lamott returned with enough saltpeter to guarantee the Union gunpowder for the duration of the war. During the war, the Brandywine was a frenzy of activity. New mills were constructed to meet increasing demand. Production continued even in the wake of explosions. Workers formed 2 infantry companies and drilled during their off hours. But most importantly, gunpowder was produced around the clock.
The DuPont company produced about 40% of the Union's powder and explosives during the war.
Due to the strategic value of the Brandywine mills, Boss Henry was promoted to the rank of Major General in charge of the Delaware militia. While the general remained content providing gunpowder and protecting the mills, his nephew Lamott sought innovation, specifically a new type of powder called mammoth powder. With grains the size of baseballs, this new form of gunpowder greatly increased the firing distance of cannons.
Lamott was the executor of new ideas coming into the manufacture of powder, which he did very well. And Henry, the boss, did not really understand the manufacturing of gunpowder. He understood the business and he understood the distribution and sales.
The two clashed over mammoth powder. Although the new powder hadn't been adequately proven in the field of battle, Lamott believed DuPont would benefit financially by becoming the first mass producer of mammoth powder. For Henry, this was too speculative. He wanted to concentrate on making the same powders they had always made. At the Battle of Hampton Roads, when the ironclads Monitor and Merrimac met in an epic clash, Lamott's mammoth powder saved the day. Armed with larger cannons powered by mammoth powder, the Monitor withstood the Merrimac's barrage. When the subsequent accolades came back to DuPont, Henry gladly took the credit. For now, Lamott would do nothing but smirk. The end of the Civil War marked the end of black powder's domination of the explosives industry. It was to be replaced by a far more destructive force, dynamite. When we return, dynamite blasts the DuPont dynasty apart.